And for Rabbi Yisrael HaLevi ben David Abeleh. That's my great-grandfather. Okay, we're learning Perek Chof. So there's a whole maimer, there's 2 prokim, right? Yudches and Yutes. Because Perek Chof is the siyum already. Perek Chof is not part of the hemshech. Perek Chof is the siyum. And just for the sake of saying something provocative, as a Shalom Aleichem, in a funny way, the Aschala and siyum are the opposite direction of the hemshech. If you guys are learning the hemshech and you're paying attention, and you learned the whole Perek Chof, meaning the whole page Mem Beis and the whole page Mem Gimel, till the end, you could make a case that what the Rebbe is saying in the Aschala V'Siyam of the Maimer is the opposite of the Hadgosha, of the direction, of the trajectory of the Hemshech in its entirety. Why? I need your attention, please. What's the direction of the Hemshech in its entirety? In plain English, that Giluyim Rishatzmas. Right? That Oir Pnimi, Giluyim, is Yasha Yechaz Afanem, you reach Atzmas. The whole point of the Aschala V'Siyam is that the Meraglim were into Giluyim, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted Atzmas. So if you wanted to really be a Labdan, you would say that if the Hemshech is speaking about how Giluyim, Kav, Pnimi, since it's being Mamal the Kavona, that's the key word, it's Mamshech Atzmos, so then how come the Rebbe in this Maimer is saying that Giluyim is a Chesaron, and only Atzmos is a Maila, and the struggle between Moshe Rabbeinu and the Meraglim was a struggle over Giluyim and Atzmos. The Meraglim wanted Giluyim, Moshe wanted Atzmos, but Moshe gave them a little bit of Giluyim, thinking that it was going to bring them to Atzmos, and they got stuck on the Giluyim, and that was the beginning and the end and the middle of all the tzaddis. So when I was learning it, I prepared this at home. I was thinking that the Aschala V'Siyam is Hepech the Teuchen, or the Kavona of the Hemshech. I think it's a Tzadachiyah. I think it's a Tzadachiyah. For sure, a Tzadach Bir. So, again, Perek Chof is Aschala V'Siyam. Today we're going to learn page Mem Beis, at least most of it. And I'm hoping tomorrow we have a family with a yahrzeit. I'm hoping to come here after the yahrzeit to give a shiur. We'll do the beginning of the Maimer, which is page Lamed Zayin, and then we'll do what Hashem said, page Mem Gimel. That's my plan, okay? Rabbis Machshov is Belev Ish Vatzasa Hashem Yisokim, but that's the Machshov Belev Ish. So let's go. What the Rebbe is going to say is that there's 3 madregas, okay? There's 3 madregas. There's Atzmos, which is called Midbar. There's Giluyim in a way of Seder, which is called Yishuv. And there's a Giluyim which is less in a way of Seder, which is called Sadeh. Okay? Okay. In Avoida, Atzmos is Mitzvahs Maisiyas. Seder Ishtalshalus is Teire. The lesser Seder Ishtalshalus is the Kavonas HaMitzvahs. That's what's going to happen on this page. 3 in Yonah. The highest thing is doing a mitzvah in a Kabbalah sale, that's Midbar. The second madrega is is learning Torah on a level where you're understanding the Torah, the madrega of Torah, that's Yishuv, that's Ir. And the lowest madrega is Sadeh. Sadeh means there's also a little bit of life over there, but people don't live there, and it's a mashal for understanding the Torah as it is in the mitzvahs, Kavanos HaMitzvahs. It's Giluya, but it's less Giluya. It's not so organized. Azevet Eschap, okay? That's what's going to happen on this page. That's what we're going to be learning today. Now, how this ties into the Meraglim and the Eretz Yisrael and the Eretz Canaan and Moshe Rabbeinu and the Yasuru, this we'll see Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach v'Yisala Ubali Neder tomorrow. Let's go to Hakdama. Okay, everybody learned Anil Daidi from the Likutei Torah. And if you did not learn Anil Daidi from the Likutei Torah, you're not an everybody. You're a nobody, or somebody, but you're not an everybody. Everybody learned the Maimer Anil Daidi Likutei Torah, right? Anil Daidi, the first one, there's 2 of them. Anil Daidi, the Malach Basada one. How does Anil Daidi v'Daidi li Harei B'Shanim go? He asks a question. The question that he asks, and it says in Kisvi Arizal, that Elul is the Gili of Yagil Midas Arachman. The Alter Rebbe asked this question. So the Alter Rebbe says, if Elul is Gil Midas Arachman, the whole Elul should be a Yom Tov. Now, when you look in the Gemara, when you ask Stam Azoy, I'm at the bottom of the street, when is the Gili of Yagil Midas Arachman? The answer is Ases Mitzvah. Ases Mitzvah is Hashem Karacha V'Chan Erech Apayim Rav Chesem Neisei Ches Allah from Neisei Oven Neisei Pesh Neisei Chatov V'Naki. So how did that? He'll say that El is Yom Mitzarach. What's his answer? Is there everybody's in this room?
Well,
The answer is you're not listening to what I just said.
No, we just didn't learn out of that.
Mamish,
We're
you're not in everybody.
good.
What is the answer? Anybody know the answer? Now, one person knows the answer. I think he knows the answer. Know the answer? The answer is Melech Basada. That's the answer. That you give me just after me tshuva is Melech Mechamachuze. That's where the Machon Melech Basada comes from. Yes, El is Gil Mitzarachmin, but it's Melech Basada. So the Alter Rebbe begins by saying in the beginning of the second Perek, V'hine yesh ir sada midbar. The Alter Rebbe says there's 3 levels. Ir, which in our mind is called Yishuv, where people live. Sada is a field where there's life for farming, but people don't really live there. And Midbar is a Shalai Yashav Adam Shalom. Midbar is desolate. The Midbar has no life. Yeah? And in Avoida, what's Ir? Tzaddik. What's Sada? Beinani. What's Midbar? Rasha. And the Chiddush is Malach Basada, that the king comes to the Beinani. Now again, this part of the Maimed, no Babich knows, because we only know the Rebbe Sichas on the Maimed. The Rebbe says that anybody who's not the Sada is not Zeichet to the Malach Basada. Which is most of us, right? Only Beinani are Malach Basada. So that's why the whole Maimed is about Tshuva. The whole Maimed is about Tshuva. The whole Maimed is about Tshuva. Why? Because who's in the Sada to greet the Melech? Now the Rebbe came along and he pushed everybody into the Sada. Don't ask. The Rebbe made a whole different Melech Basada. But the push it to Pshat in the Maimed and Likutei Torah, there's another man from the Alter Rebbe, Machon Melech Basada, where the Alter Rebbe also says that the Melech is Bamidbar. But in the Likutei Torah, Melech is Basada Lafuki Midbar. So Ir is Tzaddik. Sada, which Ir is Tzaddik, which in our Maimed is called Yishuv. Sada is Beinani, and Midbar is Rosh. But our Maimed goes in a different order. There's Midbar, Yishuv, Sada. That Midbar is not the lowest Madrega, Midbar is the highest Madrega. What does Midbar mean? Midbar means Eretz Hashalai Yashav Adam Shalom. People can't live there. What's the pshat? People can't live there. Adam can't live there. In Midbar, you have a lakus higher than Adam. Lay Adam is in Midbar. So Midbar is sometimes seen as a very big chassadet, and sometimes it's seen as a very, very big maila. And in this Maimed, Midbar is the highest madrega of all. Yishuv in this Maimed, the same thing as Ir in the other Maimed, and Sada is the same as Sada in that other Maimed. So in our Maimed, we're bringing the same 3 in Yonim you have in Eile Devi, but not just you're bringing them in a different order, you're understanding them in different ways. Rather, the Rambam brings from the Gemara. Why was the Torah given in a Midbar? Because a Midbar has no owner. Midbar is a Makom Hefker. And anybody who wants can take it. The Torah doesn't have an owner. The Kahuna belongs to Kayanim. Only. The Melucha belongs to Zerah David. Only. Keset Torah, it's Munach B'Kerem. It's obvious nobody can say the Keset Torah is his. Anybody can take it. The Eibishter gave it to the Midbar. So some Maimorim think of Midbar as a Gavaldike Chesarim, the place of a Rishoyim. And some Maimorim, like this Maimor, say it's a place for people that are not people. As the Gemara says, Leis Dein Barinish. Lav Dein Barnash. Higher than the Madrega of Adam. Now let's learn it inside. V'hine. B'Teira yesh Midbar Yishuv V'Sada. In Torah and everything associated with Torah, there are 3 levels. The highest level is a desert. The middle level is a city, a yishuv, which in the Likutei Torah is called Ir. And the lowest level is Sada, which means a field. A field is a fertile place, right? It has life, things grow, and they feed the people, but it's not a place where people live, it's people farm. So now we talked about each one. Okay, now I'm just going to tell you where they all are, okay? The 4th line into the Perek, if you have the new print, is Ve'inyan Bechinas HaMidbar. You see it? That's Midbar. Then about 8 lines after that, you have which gets us 11 lines into the page. Perek is Ubechinas Yishuv Shabbatera. You see that? Mm-hmm. You see it? And then 1 line after that, in the middle of the line, is V'Sadu She'ein Ba Yishuv. I'm showing you where the 3 in Yonim are. Midbar's first, Yishuv is second, and Sada Ister.
Are we speaking of levels, and we see levels in the Torah? I suppose, meaning, is that still like the Tzadik Beini and Russia, whatever? It's still in.
How could it be?
I'm not talking about
If Eid is Sada and Midbar is higher than Eid, it's different rules.
No, we said Sad, Midbar, Yashin and Sad are the same as there.
Yishuv and Eid is the same.
Yishuv and Eid.
Yeah, but the connection to Tzadik Beini and Russia is not raised over here. The whole idea of Torah is Zeis HaTorah Adam, what it's called in a lot of Maimorim, Torah's Havaya, Ki Yishorim Darachi Havaya. It means Torah was given for Atzilus. Torah was given to be understood. Torah was given to come Eires B'Kelim, Hanusha Torah B'Chinas Pnimi. The dinyan of Torah is Pnimius, and Pnimius means you're supposed to understand. Now, Chavi, you must understand. Lefi Drush Zeh. That's Atzmos, that's the highest thing. Why? Because this Maimon speaks about the mile of Pnimius because that's the Kavanah, right? But not here. In this Haschol of Asiyim, it's like we forgot about the Ayin Beis. In this Haschol of Asiyim, the idea of Atzmos, which is Bittul, is going to be higher than Oir Pnimi. And I think it's a Tzarech Iyur. But I'm not sure. It's for sure a Tzarech Biyur. Shazehu ha-hefresh bein Torah the mitzvahs. Torah is Eir Pnimi, and mitzvahs, which is Ratzon ha'elyon, is Bechinas Makif. In other words, Torah is Chochma, which is Eir Pnimi, and mitzvahs are Makif. Now you'll see soon that there's two parts to mitzvahs. There is the Maisa mitzvah, which is Kabbalah Seil, which is Kesed, and there's the Kavanas mitzvah. The Kavanas mitzvah is a piece of Torah. It's also Eir Pnimi. Eir is Bekelim, but it's lower than Torah. Torah is Chochma Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Torah is Hashem's wisdom. And as the Chazal say, Yemreiku Mikem, Torah hi v'lilmad ani tzarech. Every single word in Torah makes sense. It is logical and it can be understood. Maybe I don't understand it, but that's Chesed HaMasig, it's a Chesed in me. But anything which is written in Torah is on a level of Avon of Asagah. It can be understood. And there's more. The totality of the Torah amounts to Adam. A mensch. If you together all Tayag mitzvahs, Ramach mitzvah seh, Shasam mitzvahs leisa seh, and all the Ribe Alocha Sadei mitzvah, it adds up to the union of Adam. And what's Adam? Adam is his Kabbalahs. Every single part of Torah is connected to every single other part of Torah. It fits together into a lattice work, into a piece of art, into a picture where everything is connected to everything else, and everything needs everything else, and everything is made complete by everything else, and it's perfect. That's Adam. So it's his Galalos in the place of his Chalkas. It's all brought down, everything has a different Keli, but they all fit together perfectly. And Adam, even though Adam is made up of parts, the Achdus of Adam, the Hiskalos of Adam adds up to believable. The degree of perfection in Adam Elyon, even though Adam Elyon is made up of parts, and the parts are limited, amounts to an Ein Seif because of how well they fit together. And that's Torah. Torah is Avon of Asagah. If you understand Torah like the Rogic of it, yeah. If you understand the Torah like the Rebbe, you know this. You see that as vast and as expansive and as divergent, as different types of topics. As Torah has, it all fits together like a perfect lattice work into a single miksha achas, one collection, one unity, which is Adam, Torah, Adam. That's Torah. Mitzvahs is not like that. There's a level in Torah which is called the desert. What's the level in Torah which is called the desert? There's no water there. There's no one of us. That's the Torah to the 10 hidden spheres. And you'll see in a moment that the diog of Esesphiras Agnusis doesn't mean a higher light, it means Bittel and Kabbalah Seil. The Mayes and Esesphiras are also Eser, and they're also Oires, Mikol, Mokam, and Leib, Bechinas Mitzias, Leib, Bechinas Chalkos. The Esesphiras Agnusis are not yet in a form of Esesphiras, because they're bottled in the place that they're in. And they're not divided because they're bottled in the place that they're in. That in the Madrega of Adam, Meshgamkim Bechinas Kilei Adam, who is the level of Adam which is higher than Adam, which is Lei Adam. And that's the Madrega of Midbar.
What's Lei Adam? What's the Lei Adam?
In plain English, Nishka Mensch.
In what are we saying here?
That it's higher than Adam. Adam is order, his chalkos, everything has a place, everything goes into a different kelim, the kelim fit together to make up an achdus. Lay Adam is a singularity. It's above the idea of divided and unified. That Lay Adam, Midbar, is not lacking life. It's a higher life. It's the life of secrets. They're above human understanding. Not just be'poil, but be'etzem, because their inyan is Midbar. This is particularly true in Chassidus, which is called the secrets of the Torah, that it is sosam v'nelam begab to completely hidden, which goes to makam acher. Ubemeila bechina zu ein bezataynu. If you could have the Torah, the way Torah is in Midbar, and the way Torah is in Midbar, it's as Sfiras Agnuzis. Sfiras Agnuzis is Sfiras. But because you have the Torah and the Madrega of Sfiras Agnuzis, and in the Madrega of Sfiras Agnuzis, there is no Mitzias, and there's no Hischalkus, so there's not going to be a Tainuk from that Torah. If you would learn that Torah, you're not going to experience pleasure. Now this is tricky, because what that statement is saying is plain, simple, false. If you learn Torah in the Madrega, which is higher than Atzilas, you're the ultimate Tainuk. So why does the Rebbe say there's no Tainuk? He says there's no Tainuk that's being brought down. And he contrasts it by Bina. Look weiter. There's Galus Atik, Tainuk is revealed in the Madrega Bina. Because since Bina is Ba'asaga, since the understanding is bringing the Torah down into Caleb, into a lot of words, there is a revealed pleasure. So the Galus of Atik, the revelation of Tainuk is in Bina. But in Chochmah and in Kesed, and in Pnimis HaKesed, of course there's Atik, but there's no Gili of Atik. Of course there's Tainuk. There's no Gili of Tainuk. So the Rebbe says, the Rebbe says plain, simple, Ein Bazeh Tainuk. And what he means is no Tainuk Murgesh, there's no Tainuk Murkev, there's a Tainuk Atzma. I want to explain this to you by Hagdama. I learned in the Maimon from Friedrich and Rebbe. I think it's one of the Chasna Memorim, but I'm not sure, pay test. And I learned it because I was learning one of the Rebbe Rashab, and the Maimon of the Rebbe Rashab was explained to the Friedrich and Rebbe, but the V'aygeled and Friedrich Rebbe is Maimon Rech. And the Friedrich Rebbe says a gewaltige Zach. Do I have your attention? Do you have your attention? Do you have your attention? Menachem Edel, have your attention? The Friedrich Rebbe says a gewaltige Zach. The Tainuk has two names. From Etzem HaNefesh till Seichel, including Bina, the name of Tainuk is Tainuk. From Midas and downward, the name of Tainuk, get this, is Nachas Ruach. I never saw it by the Rebbe Rashab, but the Rebbe Rayatz makes this distinction. What is the difference between Tainuk and Nachas Ruach? I'll tell you. Tainuk means pleasure. I know what Nachas Ruach means. Take a while, get. It means pleasure. So why the two denotations? It's a very, very simple thing. Tainuk is the Etzem HaNefesh. Tainuk is your etzem. Tainuk is your personality. In real terms, Tainuk means those things that your neshama is drawn to because they're in your etzem. If you like certain types of music, because in your etzem and neshama you have an atiyah to that type of music, that's called Tainuk. Tainuk is the source of why you like this kind of music and not that kind of music. So then you go and chase that kind of music. And when you get to that kind of music, and you listen to that kind of music, the Tainuk is revealed. But the Tainuk came first. First in your Etzam HaNefesh, there was a proclivity, there was a tendency, there was a leading to this Chochmah, to this Chush, or to this Umnit, or to the Yitzhak. So that's why you went there in the first place. And when you go there and you get it, you experience Tainuk, you experience pleasure. But Tainuk is the infinity of the Neshama. So Chassidus has a simple rule. When you experience Tainuk from lofty things, like from ideas, for example, or Chassidish ideas, which are very deep, so you want to learn something, you understand it. And the experience of Tainuk is in a tnu of going up. You understood this Maimon Chassidus, and the pleasure makes you feel like going higher than the Maimon. Going to a place which is above the Seich of the Maimon, where you can experience the Elokiyah of the Maimon. However, when you experience Tainuk at the level of Midas, you study a good shtickle psychology, which is what Midas is. And you use that psychology to help a person, or to make yourself feel good, or to take advantage of a person. I don't know which nefesh you want to talk about. Nefesh Elokis, Nefesh HaSichas, Nefesh HaBamis. And you use psychology, which is Chochmas HaNefesh, to help a person, and you got pleasure from that. Chassidus says that pleasure does not raise up your feelings to a higher level, the pleasure is brought down to your feeling, which is the meaning of the word nachas, from the word chasad, to come down. So there's a lot of levels in pleasure. On the higher koiches and the higher chushim, when you do something and it gives you pleasure, it raises you up towards your etzem nefesh. On the lower level, beginning with the midas, when you did something and it gave you pleasure and you experienced pleasure, the pleasure comes down. That's like his galasat. His galas doesn't mean pleasure. It means pleasure on a level of revealed. Pleasure that's brought down.
Where's it coming from?
Same place.
It's coming from the etzem.
Yes, your etzem nefesh has a leaning.
I don't know what happens the first pleasure.
That etzem nefesh, because of that leaning, you're drawn to certain things, and when you do it, you get pleasure. Pleasure means you feel very rich, you feel very full. But when the pleasure is from a low thing, like if you eat a good piece of food and it gives you pleasure, that pleasure is not nesala batzmusa, you understand? The sum of your etzem nefesh light comes down to your food. That's why it's called chosed. That's why it's called nachas. Because the pleasure is coming to the place of the pleasure rather than the place of the pleasure being raised up. When you learn a deep idea and you get pleasure, the idea almost becomes more of an idea. It becomes part of the yonik. But that's only true in seichel. It's not true in midas. It's not true in chush. You understand? So the Rebbe says, when a person learns Seidus HaTorah, there's no tainuk. Lie. There's the most tainuk. But there's no feeling of tainuk. There's no I feel good. There's a feeling I'm so lost. I'm so included. No, don't bother me. Shah, be quiet. Masha'enke, when you have pleasure from something which is lower, and the line that the Kabbalah draws is this galus atik bebina, I'm telling you, Midas, he brings Bina, because Bina understands something in a thorough way. Bina brings down something to it. You can understand it fully in your brain. The pleasure from that Bina is not where you're going up into your nefesh, but some of your nefesh is coming down into your pleasure, meaning it's not oining, it's nachas ruach. Says the Rebbe, midbar is no tainuk. But that's not true. Midbar is the ultimate tainuk. Especially if it ties in midbar means Seidus HaTorah. What's more geschmack than chassidus? But the pleasure of chassidus is called not geschmack. It is geschmack. The Torah says the pleasure of chassidus is the kind of geschmack that when you learn the chassidus and you have the pleasure nobody else sees, you go up into yourself. The pleasure, it's almost a part of the idea that's giving you the pleasure, becomes a hemshich to the vasech. Where is it the beginning of pleasure? Where you see the pleasure, where the pleasure is felt. Because the pleasure is brought down into thing which is going to bring the pleasure. So it says in this Maimon, that's only Bina. And it says in other Maimonim, that's only Midas. And the Rebbe continues, Teiche de Dibur. Vizehu. And this that we just said, that Ein B'zeh Tainug, is Amit, is Taimei Teira, she is Galul Osid, which is, what's the next word? Tainug! There is no pleasure, it's the ultimate Taimei Tainug, which is Tainug, Bilti Morgish. And he brings his favorite Maimed. Boyas, you figure what the Rebbe's favorite Maimed is?
Yeah.
What's the Rebbe's favorite Maimed?
Yeah, I'm Shmini Atzeres. Yeah, that one I forgot.
You're that one.
Third one for the fact.
So the Rebbe says, when you have Rosa de Raisa, you have no Tainuk, but that's the highest Tainuk. So which is it? You have a Tainuk, you have no Tainuk. It tells you there's no Gili of Tainuk. So the emes is, on the level of Midbar, there's Seidus HaTorah, the highest level of Choch. On the level of Midbar, you have what's called Makif. Later on you'll see that this is even Kiyam Mitzvah Kabbalah Sale. The emes is, this is the greatest Tainuk. But the nature of that Tainuk is that it's built in Murgish. It can't be felt. It doesn't come down. You go up to it. So it's called Midbar because there's no Izgalus. You don't see anything. Go ahead.
Is there a saga? Meaning, yeah? Like, are you understanding? Because it says Lamal Hasaga.
So l'chayre it's really more Haskalah than Hasaga.
What's it called?
Choch. But Klau, Pnimius HaTorah is be'etzem when you're from Haskalah.
But you're understanding. It's understandable.
You're understanding a little bit. Chocham mevim midayter. Understands or not?
Even though it's higher?
Because you said before that everything in Torah is understandable. On a certain level. So you're saying it's like the most understandable part of Torah?
I think what you're saying is correct, but your question is a lot better than my answer. So what does midba mean? Midba means a madreg of Torah where you don't understand. Midba means a madreg of Torah, which is the revelation of Rozen, the Aisa, which you have no pleasure. You have pleasure, it's not called pleasure because it's not Beis Galus, it's called Tainug Ha'atzmi, Bilti Murkiv. We're good? Then comes the Yishuv, Bechinas Yishuv B'Teira, is Torah itself, Shemasigim. Elokusi is Baruch. We learn and understand Torah, and through understanding the Torah, we understand the Eibishter. V'hu in Yediyas HaTorah, B'Bechinas Yediyas V'Hasaga, Sh'Tanim B'Enim. When a person learns Torah, understands Torah, it gives him Gavaldik and Nachas Ruach. It gives him Moidedik pleasure. Why? Because you can understand it. I got a message from a young man from Borough Park, a Polish, his Mamish Lubavitcher. We should be as Lubavitch as him. Who's very connected to me. It's interesting. She sends me a message that his daughter came home. His daughter's an adult woman with 2 kashas for Rabbi Paltiel. I don't know what Chassidus they belong to, but they're not Lubavitchers from home. The first question is, Chassidus speaks about Dira B'Tachtenim. If you speak about Dira B'Tachtenim, shouldn't that make Gan Eden a bad place? Good question.
What, bad place or just not the ultimate?
Why would I want to go away from Dira B'Tachtenim? It's almost like a punishment. It's like a bat, like the Rebbe Ayat said, when you send an Hashem to Gan Eden, you just punish them. Because they can't make a Dira B'Tachtenim. So this girl asked, if the Kavan is Dira B'Tachtenim, that makes Gan Eden a bad place. So I answered her that there's 2 ways for something to be good. Number 1 is good for me, and number 2 is good for my fulfilling the purpose which I was created. In terms of what's good for me, there's nothing better than Gan Eden. In terms of my kavanah, there's nothing worse than Gan Eden. Verstehst?
Yeah.
Right? So the Rebbe says, Torah is Gan Eden. That's what Torah is. Torah is your understanding the Torah in a way that the timing of the Torah is brought down. It's Tiskalas Atik Bavina. And you understand the Torah and the pleasure of the Torah, but it's all for you. It's very beautiful, but it's all for you. And then he says, V'sadehu. What is Sadeh? She'ein ba yishuv adam. It's a field. People don't live there even though it's not a desert. The field serves the yishuv. Ubekal yishuv yechoshev, and it's part of the yishuv itself, like you had nishlang. Would you have it? It's in halachas of a Shabbos. It's a mishnah in the end of Masechta Beya, Mishnah Gemara. But you had it now in Hilchos Yom Tov, I guess. If you see an animal walking around the field, do you have to return it or not? Or is it considered mezuman or is it considered muktzah? So does it have an owner? Does it not have an owner? Was it nitn l'ray? Was it not nitn l'ray? And one of the svaras is, he's out in the field. Is he running away from the city or towards the city? If he's running towards the city, he's considered a basi and he's meyushav. You can assume he's mezuman and you can shech him a yom tov. It's not considered muktzah. If he's running away from the city, so he's not basi, he's not mezuman. He can't do it because he's muktzah. Gedenkst. Hilchos Yom Tov. How many days ago was Hilchos Yom Tov? Kiddush HaChedesh was Sach Hakel. 6 days in one Perek. The guys amazing. Okay, for Kiddush HaChedesh you had the Shefer Sukkah Valula, before they had Matzah, but it's a hiccup ago we had the Hilchos Yom Tov. A field is not a city, but it serves the city. V'yashlei mashu kavonas hameis. Says the Rebbe in Avodah Oisius, a sada is in between Torah, which is Tainug, and Torah, which is not Tainug. Torah, which is Avon of Asaga, and Torah, which is Atzmas. What's Torah, which is Atzmas? What's Torah, which is higher than Tainug, higher than Nachas Ruach? Midbar, the highest level. What's Torah, which is Einig? What's Torah that is brought down, where you experience not just the Torah, but the Tainug of the Torah? That's Torah itself. And lower than both of those is the Kavan of the mitzvah, not the Kiyam mitzvah, the Kavan of the mitzvah. The Miyesh is Ogam Ken Asaga. Kavan of the mitzvah also is part of Torah, your understanding. When you understand that Torah, you understand how Hashem thinks. When you understand the Kavan of a mitzvah, you don't even understand how Hashem thinks about this one thing. You understand the pshat of this mitzvah because this is what you came up with. Like the Rambam says, all the mitzvahs are gzeiros. But kol she'efshar losses leitam, 10 leitam, you have to go read this mitzvahs nevertheless. And when a person gives a reason for mitzvah, it's far away from when the Eibishter gives you the mitzvah. So Midbar is a place where you have such a connection to the Eibishter that you don't see in your life. There's no revealed Tainuk. And as you'll see momentarily, that's the place of Kabbalah Seil and Bittul. It's higher than Gilui. Yishuv means you're going to have to wash your hands and rub your hand on the table. Yishuv means you're learning Torah, you're understanding it fully. Shada means that from the Torah you learned about mitzvahs and you have a kavanah for the mitzvah. Even though that kavanah is not absolutely true, it's a part of the mitzvah nevertheless.
What do you mean not absolute true? Isn't like.
Nachamon.
What do you mean not absolute true?
The Rambam writes in a number of places that the mitzvahs are xeris, right? But nevertheless, kol she'ef she'loses leitam tein leitam. It's a mitzvah, it's an achrayah, it's a Yiddish azach to give reasons for mitzvahs. If you come up with them, even though they're not emes. That's your chiyuv. But you should always know it's not safe time on Shal mitzvah. That's the real reason for mitzvahs. There's more. Right? You know, the Rambam writes that the Mishnah says, Amen al kan sipa yagir rachamecha v'shat yanesi. You're not allowed to say that the mitzvah shiluach hakan is for rachmanos on birds, because the mitzvah gzeidah said that Rambam, you know what the mitzvah hakan is? You know the reason, you know the real mitzvah hakan? Because they has rachmanos on birds. He said, relax, I know the Mishnah, I didn't forget it. I know the Mishnah in Beracha says it's not because of the Kavanas, it's not because of Rachamim. But the Pshat in the Mishnah isn't that you don't learn the lesson of Rachamim from Shiluach HaKan, but there's more to it. It's not saved Daital Shal Mitzvahs. So the Kavanas HaMitzvahs you and I come up with are not reflecting Chachmas Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'emes, they're reflecting Chachmas Shal Baruch Hu as it is in the world, it relates to us. Because after Mashiach comes, we'll do the same mitzvah of different Kavanah. In El Matchio, the same mitzvah with a third Kavanah. The Kavanah will change, but the mitzvah is going to remain the same. So Midbar is Yiddishkeit, which is so deep, the highest levels of Elokus, highest levels of Tainuk, that there's no experience of Tainuk at all. Is Yishuv is the place of maximum Tainuk. You're learning Torah, you're understanding the Torah, you see the Achtos and Torah and so on. And so there's Kavanos HaMitzvahs, where the Kavanos HaMitzvahs are loosely connected to the Torah. And therefore their exactitude, as the Kavanah is less, but it's a little bit of understanding. 3 levels.
What are mitzvahs? Is that involved at all?
Huh? What about Maisa mitzvahs?
Yeah.
Maisa mitzvahs is midbar. Kabbalah says. Bittul. No gishmak.
Even like mishpatim? Saying,
Okay, hips and kashas.
well, that's the behind every mishpat.
So the Rebbe says like this. Ubechinas midbar shebeteira. For those who lost the place, it's 10 lines from the bottom of the page. The level, they're called midbar. Zehu bechinas sheba basir bepel mamish. The midbar of Yiddishkeit is you do mitzvahs. The midbar of Yiddishkeit you do mitzvahs. The same girl from Bar Park asked me a second question. And the second question is, how could it say in Tanya that Goyim don't have a neshama? That Goyim are klipa, that a lot of Goyim walk Siddhiyim Masayla. That they're spiritual, she said. So I told her father that for a Goy to be spiritual doesn't mean nothing, because he'd be a spiritual, the biggest Balaveda. But you can be religious. If a Goy keeps Shabbat Mitzvah Nenech, he's considered Chsidim Masayla. His neshama is not from klipa, it's only from klipas nega. And yesh leichelech li'elam abo. But there's a catch, I told her. A guy is knocking at Chelam Abba because he sits in shul and meditates. Or a guy is at Chelam Abba because he does mitzvahs and doesn't do Averis. Bottom line, right? Metarn is indikin. You're not allowed to sin. Finished. Nobody cares about why and how. Just don't do it. And you have to do mitzvahs. And whenever I speak about Sheva mitzvahs, I always like to bring up that I believe that what the Rebbe was not happy about when they made the campaign of mitzvahs, Sheva mitzvahs is because Sheva mitzvahs is supposed to be a way of life. It's not a few rules. Just like Tayag mitzvah for a yid, not a bunch of rules. They're a way of life. Sheva mitzvahs b'nei nech are a framework for a way of life. You know what that way of life is? Chaye mishpacha. Family. Im kesef talves ani imach ani yeircha koidmen. Who was the first person you have to give tzedakah to? Your wife. Who was the second person you give tzedakah to? Your children. Who's the third person you give tzedakah to? Your parents. Who's the fourth person you give tzedakah to? Rachmanu l'san shemu shamayim yishtaka adov alei, to your brothers and your sisters. Azay dalacha. Azay dalacha. Why? Because it's easy to send money to support pygmies in Asia. It's easy to send money to support
Wales.
whatever it is, because I never met him. My brother, I can't stand his guts. He's a battler, he's a loser. Why should I give him money? Wasted all of his own. What's the teretz? Life is about being close to other people. And the beginning that close to other people is the people closest to you. So the Sheva mitzvah say give tzedakah to who? The people close to you. So I said to this girl, you're asking about going more spiritual. Going spiritual, I'm not nispov. Going more religious. The neshama is from klipas nega, not from klipas tmeiz lagamre. And the v'chelik el rabba v'chulu. What's the key? What you do, not how you feel about it. And what you do is midbar. Midbar shebeteira zehu shabo v'asiyah v'pe'al mamish. All the Abish that cares about knew. What's the Rebbe's favorite quotation that I want right now? Tapara de plachu. T-O-T. Tachas on the table. Tapara, you have to put on the table. Action. Hamaisa wiki in Russian. It's tapara de plachu.
That's not Tachas Eventesh?
Yes, but you said that and not I. You don't want the reason, you don't want that. There's the deepest tainug in the mitzvah maises. But the Rebbe says before, the tainug in the mitzvah maises is called bli tainug because there's no izgalus of tainug. There's only tainug built in murgish. So maybe the highest tainug is in midbar, the highest tainug in the mitzvah maises, but when you're doing a mitzvah maises, you're an eved, pashush HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
So it's higher than... Wait, question.
Beli sheyitza v'atam v'atainuk lakrasa setzeni his baruch do his wishes, and he brings the pasuk from Shalom Melech. Hachefetz Hashem ba'eles. Right, as the Eibush says in the Karbonis from the Agog, from the Amalekim. Haleshmei amizevach tev. Do what you're told. Don't bring Karbonis. Do what you're told. Right, beli. Right, b'kiyum b'peil mamish b'lishum tam. That's a yid. That's Kabbalah Sel Mitzvahs, and he connects it to Eretz Canaan. Now remember, the shir is about the Meraglim going into Eretz Canaan. Eretz Canaan be'etzim is a midbar. L'mal Yuseh. What is the title? Eretz Tam be'etzim is a midbar l'mal Yuseh. Eretz Canaan is a place of doing mitzvahs without any geshmak. And doing mitzvahs without any geshmak is geshmaker than any geshmak. It's hard than any geshmak. Just because the Eibush said that's the place. The Eretz Tam is midbar. Eretz means midbar. Even though l'chayre Eretz doesn't mean midbar. Eretz means other. Adama means midbar, but don't get into it. And you can Eretz Canaan, which means Canaan from the word Canaan. Usually Canaan means a tager. What's a tager mean? Huh? A businessman. Birudim. Vayet Yehuda me'eis echav. Ad ish. Right. Yasham bas isha Knani zok Rashi tager. You shouldn't think that you're the married a Knaini. Bas Isha Knaini, Ish Knaini, Tager, a businessman. In the Eishes Chayil, she's doing business with a Knani. Knani doesn't mean from Knan. Knani means a businessman. But here he doesn't touch Knan, Lashon businessman, he touches Knan, Lashon Achno, Bittel. You see it? Avei de Blita. And he continues 6 lines at the bottom of the page. Zehu ha-yitzra in sheyesh b'mitzvahs ma'is yisalateira. This idea of midbar l'mal yusuf, which is the place which is the gili of Rozen and Rozen De'eraisa. The highest tainuk is called Bli Tainuk. Why? Because there's Bli Hergish HaTainuk. There's Bli Gilei HaTainuk. When you do a mitzvah, the Kabbalah says that Rambam writes in the Chashuvah Pedikut, Seifa Teva Glove Beglola. There's going to be a schar, but you're thinking about schar. You know what it says in the Marash of Bekocha? The Mishnah says in Ovis, Al tiyuk avodim arav, hamsham sharav manas lakabel pras, el avei kavodim hamsham sharav, rav shalayam that the kappas. The Marash writes, it's a different yes in the Mishnah. Al tiyuk avodim hamsham sharav manas lakabel pras, el avei kavodim hamsham sharav, al manas shaloy lakabel pras. Your kavana is, I don't want schar. Not I don't need schar, I don't want schar. Why? Because schar mitzvah. The greatest over the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. And there's no hergish. And the emes is, the no hergish is doesn't. It's the biggest hergish. But it's beli gili of tainuk. That's midbar. Weiter. When you understand the lakus, which is the madrega of Teira, which is the irni of Yishuv. And the pleasure from that. Now, when you say the word einig by Torah, you want to add one word. Which word do you want to add?
Saga?
Gilui. Right? Gilui einig. Teira is avona vasaga, so the Teira is Gilui. Ha'kele b'chinas Giluyim. Aval am shachas ha'atzmus. Even atzmus, I see it, b'peil mamish davkren shkabasel b'chashabayim. So midbar is atzmus. Teira is Giluyim in ishtashalus. And mitzvahs, kavanas are mitzvahs, which is called sadeh, is a kavana which is even lower than Teira. It's a secondary leg of Teira. It's not the emes of Teira. It's called she'ef she'los leitam tam leitam abisal havana v'asad. Okay, so this maimer is saying the maimer of atzmus. Remember, the whole hemshech is about the inyan from Giluyim Kav. So tomorrow we can connect this.